You can be a responsible American, good job, good habits, no wild spending, and still live with this quiet fear. One bad year can erase you. Rent goes up. Groceries go up. Insurance goes up. Childcare is a second mortgage. And if you get sick, the bill is a dice roll. So I asked a question that hits hard right now. If I'm building my future as an American, is it smarter in Norway or Sweden? People talk about Scandinavia like it's a cheat code. High quality of life. Safer. Calmer. More time. But Norway and Sweden aren't the same deal. They're two different versions of the same promise. And here's what most move to Nordic videos won't do. They'll show vibes. I'm going to show you the math that decides whether you actually win. Because both countries fund universal services through taxes. But the way those taxes hit your life is different. And there's one specific metric that flipped my conclusion. A single number that made the obvious winner lose. It's not weather. It's not culture. It's not even salaries. It's something Americans almost never calculate. Because we're trained to only look at what we take home, not what we avoid paying later. The tax monster. Until you see what it buys. Let's face the monster first, taxes. Americans hear Norway or Sweden and assume you'll get taxed into dust. Here's the clean baseline. Both Norway and Sweden run a standard 25% VAT, a value-added tax on consumption. And yes, there are reduced rates for certain categories like food and transport. But 25% is the standard. That means the system collects revenue not only from your paycheck, but every time you buy something. And then there's the number that matters more than any hot take. The tax wedge, the difference between what your employer pays and what you actually receive after the system takes its share. For an average single worker with no kids, the 2024 tax wedge is roughly Sweden, 41.5%. Norway, 36.4%. USA, 30.1%. So yes, Sweden hits harder than Norway, and both hit harder than the US. But the question isn't, is it higher? The question is, what bills disappear because of it? If your paycheck dropped tomorrow, but healthcare and family costs stopped being a monthly anxiety tax, would that save you money in your city, or would it drive you crazy? Tell me your city plus which way you lean. Mythbuster. America has lower taxes, not the way you think. Time for a mythbuster. People say, America has lower taxes. Sometimes. But it's messy. Because America doesn't just charge you taxes. It charges you separate systems. Now, I need to correct a common oversimplification. It's not accurate to say flat out, the U.S. top rate is higher than Norway's. Norway's top effective marginal rate can be around the high 40s, roughly 47.4% depending on year and components. And in the U.S., if you live in the highest tax places, like California or New York City, your combined marginal rate can reach 45-51%. So what's the real difference? Thresholds. In Norway, high rates can start at a much lower income level. Think on the order of $70K-ish depending on conversion and bracket structure. While in the U.S., the very top federal bracket kicks in at incomes closer to $600K for single filers. Translation. In the U.S., very high marginal rates are a rich person problem. In Norway and Sweden, the system expects broader buy-in from people closer to the middle. Hard cut. Taxes aren't just a number. They're a design choice. The family stress test, where America bleeds out. Now let's pressure test this with the most brutal real-life scenario. You're building a future. Kids, caregiving, burnout recovery, or just wanting a life that isn't permanently on the edge. This is where Norway and Sweden separate themselves from the U.S. in a way Americans feel in their nervous system. In a parental life-work balance ranking, Norway is number 1 and Sweden is number 2, while the U.S. ranks last, driven by things like lack of statutory leave and the way healthcare complexity punishes families. That's not nice. That is structural protection. And yes, both Norway and Sweden operate universal healthcare systems funded through taxes. But here's the nuance Americans should know up front. You can still have patient fees, small copays for visits and prescriptions. until you hit an annual cap that's roughly around $300. Meaning, you might pay something, but you're not one accident away from financial freefall. If the U.S. guaranteed paid parental leave tomorrow, but your taxes rose, would you take that trade if it meant your employer couldn't pressure you back early? Comment take it or nope and tell me your state. Norway versus Sweden. Same promise, different hit. So both countries crushed the U.S. on stability and time protection. But Norway versus Sweden is where your personal future gets decided, because they deliver the Nordic reality in slightly different ways. Remember that 2024 tax wedge? Sweden, 41.5%. Norway, 36.4%. That gap matters if you're an American trying to do two things at once. 1. Buy into the safety net. 2. Still build personal savings and momentum. So if you're optimizing for Nordic benefits with less labor tax friction, Norway starts to look quietly powerful. But if you're optimizing for top-tier family outcomes and social support, both are world-class. Here's the aha that reframes this whole conversation. In America, you don't just budget money. You budget risk. Risk of getting sick. Risk of losing coverage. Risk of childcare wiping you out. Risk of needing time off and getting punished for it. Norway and Sweden don't eliminate pain, but they change what pain is allowed to destroy you. That's the Nexera thesis. Sometimes the American dream isn't failing because you didn't grind hard enough. It's failing because your system charges you for being human. If you want the math, not the fantasy, subscribe. Because Nexera is a research journey, testing the American dream against the Nordic reality, one system at a time. And I'll be in the comments for the first 2 hours after this drops. Ask your most specific, would this work for my life? Question. The trade OFFS Americans don't expect. Now before you romanticize this, let's talk trade-offs. That 25% standard VAT changes your relationship with cheap. You feel it on purchases in a way Americans aren't used to. And here's the billionaire myth that needs to die. Nordic systems don't run on just tax the rich. They run on broad-based taxation, meaning average and moderate earners participate heavily, and consumption taxes do real work. That's the deal. More people pay in, so more people can safely draw from the system. America's deal is often the opposite. Lower visible taxes, but higher invisible invoices. If you're still here, you're exactly who this channel is for. People who want to see the hidden math. Subscribing means you don't miss the next comparison in this series. Okay, open loop time. The one number that flipped my conclusion? The tax wedge. Not because high tax is bad, but because it reveals how much of your labor value gets converted into shared systems before you ever touch your paycheck. And in 2024, Sweden's wedge is meaningfully higher than Norway's, 41.5% versus 36.4%. Which means if your future plan as an American is, I want the Nordic safety net, I want time protection, I want healthcare that won't financially ambush me, even if I still pay small fees until a cap, and I still want decent personal savings momentum, Norway becomes the winner more often than people expect. Because the winner isn't the country with the best Instagram reputation. It's the country whose system matches your life stage and your risk tolerance. So, should an American move? If you clicked I compared my future in Norway versus Sweden as an American, the winner surprised me, hoping for a simple answer. Here it is. You're not choosing a country. You're choosing a trade. America can reward you bigger if life stays stable. Good health, good job, strong benefits, no major disruptions. Norway and Sweden are designed for what happens when life gets real. Kids, illness, caregiving, burnout, uncertainty. The American dream says, you're in control. Nordic reality says, you're human. So the system should help you stay standing. If you want the next piece of this series, watch my Norway versus USA video next, because Norway only wins once you compare it directly to the American baseline of risk, time, and healthcare costs. Click the Norway versus USA episode on screen. And if you're new here, subscribe. This is what we do. Calm, data-driven comparisons that challenge your default settings. Question of the day. Would you accept higher broad-based taxes if it guaranteed universal healthcare, with small copays until a yearly cap and paid parental leave? Or would you rather keep more of your paycheck and bet on personal responsibility? Pick one. No middle answer. Tell me your state.